The massive holographic chamber of the Galactic Council hummed with tension. Representatives from 300 worlds sat in their designated sections, their alien forms casting strange shadows in the blue-white light. At the center, floating, above them all, was the image that had sparked today's emergency session. Earth. Ambassador Zektar of the Vorthan Empire stood at the speaking platform, his 6 arms gesturing dramatically. His voice boomed through the universal translators, reaching every corner of the vast chamber. Fellow council members, Zektar began, his tone grave. We gather today to address the growing threat posed by the species known as humans. In the Earth delegation section, Ambassador Sarah Chen felt her heart sink. She had feared this day would come, but hoping and fearing were different things entirely. Beside her, Captain Marcus Rodriguez, Earth's military liaison, tensed in his seat. Chatir, humans, Zektar continued, have shown unprecedented aggression in their expansion. In merely 50 years since first contact, they have established colonies on 17 worlds. They refuse to follow proper colonization protocols. They ignore our territorial boundaries. They even... He paused for dramatic effect. They even modify hostile planets to suit their needs rather than adapting themselves to the environment. A ripple of shocked whispers ran through the chamber. Terraforming was considered barbaric by most galactic civilizations. Ambassador Chen rose from her seat. I request permission to address the council. The speaker, a crystalline being whose form shifted like living glass, nodded. The human representative may speak. Sarah walked to the platform, her footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. She looked around at the hundreds of alien faces, some familiar after years of diplomacy, others completely foreign. Honored council members, she began, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Humanity stands accused of aggression and territorial expansion, but I ask you to consider the context of our actions. She activated her own holographic display, showing images of human colonies. Every world we have settled was either uninhabited or deemed uninhabitable by existing galactic standards. We didn't take anyone's home. We made homes where none existed before. Councillor Bricks of the Aquatic Syndicate raised a tentacle. But you terraform entire planets. You destroy existing ecosystems. We transform dead worlds into living ones, Sarah countered. Mars had no ecosystem when we arrived. Kepler 442c was a frozen wasteland. We brought life to lifeless rocks. That is precisely the problem, Zektar interjected, his voice sharp. You impose your will upon nature itself. You show no respect for the natural order. And your expansion continues unchecked. Captain Rodriguez stood up, unable to contain himself any longer. Our expansion is driven by necessity. Earth's population is growing. We need space to live, to grow food, to survive as a species. Your survival, declared High Counselor Threx of the Ancient Assembly, her insectoid form clicking disapprovingly, comes at the cost of galactic stability. Your species multiplies too quickly. Your hunger for resources is insatiable. You represent a cancer that, if left unchecked, will consume this galaxy. The words hit the human delegation like physical blows. Sarah felt the room turning against them, the political currents shifting like a tide. We are not asking for your worlds, she said desperately. We only ask for empty space to make our own. Empty space does not remain empty when humans arrive, Zektar replied coldly. It becomes the foundation for further expansion. Today you terraform one dead world. Tomorrow you will demand living ones. The speaker's crystalline form pulsed with light. The motion before us is clear. Humanity shall be quarantined to their home system. No human vessel may leave Sol space. No human colonies beyond Earth and Mars shall be permitted. All existing human settlements beyond Sol must be evacuated within 1 standard year. Sarah's blood ran cold. That's impossible. We have over 2 million colonists spread across 17 worlds. The evacuation ships alone would take 5 years to build. That, said Threx, is not our concern. The vote was called. One by one, the council members cast their decision. Sarah watched in growing horror as world after world voted for the quarantine. The few allies humanity had managed to make over, the decades, the peaceful Altarians, the trade-focused Centaurians, abstained rather than vote against the overwhelming majority. The final tally appeared in the air above them. 247 in favor of quarantine, 31 abstentions, 22 opposed. Sarah felt the floor seemed to drop away beneath her. 50 years of diplomacy, of building relationships, of proving humanity's worth to the galaxy. All of it had just crumbled to dust. The motion passes, the speaker announced. Humanity is hereby quarantined to the Sol system, effective immediately. Galactic patrol fleets will enforce this quarantine. As the council session dissolved into discussions of enforcement and logistics, Captain Rodriguez leaned close to Sarah's ear. "Ma'am," he whispered urgently, "there's something you need to know. I just received a coded message from Earth. Hi, Command wants to speak with you immediately." Sarah nodded numbly, still in shock from the vote. As they left the chamber, she caught sight of Zektar speaking with several other ambassadors, his expression satisfied. The Vorthon had orchestrated this perfectly, turning humanity's greatest strength, their adaptability and drive, into their greatest weakness in the eyes of the galaxy. But as they walked through the station's corridors toward the human embassy, Sarah began to feel something else mixing with her shock and disappointment. It was anger, hot, burning anger at the injustice of it all. Humanity had never invaded another species' world. They had never started a war with any galactic civilization. Their only crime was being too successful at survival. As they entered the embassy's secure communication chamber, Sarah wondered what High Command's response would be. Would they accept the quarantine? Would they try to negotiate? The holographic image of Admiral Elena Vasquez, head of Earth's Stellar Defense Force, materialized before them. Her expression was grim, but determined. "Ambassador Chen, Captain Rodriguez," she began without preamble. "I assume the vote didn't go our way." "Por 422, Sarah replied bitterly. "With 31 abstentions." Admiral Vasquez nodded grimly. "We expected as much. Which is why 3 hours ago I authorized Operation Exodus." Sarah blinked in confusion. "Operation Exodus? What?" "We're not waiting for their evacuation deadline," Vasquez cut her off. "In fact, we're not evacuating at all. Every human colony beyond Sol has been declared independent. As of this moment, they are no longer under Earth's protection or authority." Captain Rodriguez stared in shock. "Ma'am, that's brilliant," Sarah finished, understanding flooding through her. "If they're independent colonies, then the quarantine only applies to Earth itself." "Exactly," Vasquez confirmed. "But that's just the beginning. Sarah, I need you and Marcus to get to the nearest human colony as quickly as possible, preferably one with a good shipyard." "Why?" Sarah asked, though she was beginning to suspect she knew the answer. Admiral Vasquez's smile was sharp as a blade. "Because, Ambassador, if the galaxy wants to quarantine humanity, they're going to discover that humans don't quarantine easily. We've been preparing for this possibility for years." The transmission ended, leaving Sarah and Marcus alone in the chamber. They looked at each other, and slowly, matching grins spread across their faces. "Well," Marcus said, "I guess we're not going home after all." As they began planning their departure from the Galactic Council station, neither of them noticed the small surveillance device hidden in the communication chamber's wall, nor did they see the alien figure watching them from the shadows outside, the embassy. The vote to quarantine humanity had been just the beginning. What came next would reshape the galaxy forever. 3 days after the council vote, Captain Elena Vasquez of the cargo freighter Horizon's Edge received the transmission that changed her life forever. She wasn't related to the Admiral. The name was common enough among Earth's Spanish-speaking population, but she would soon become just as important to humanity's future. Elena stood in the cramped bridge of her ship, watching the massive bulk of Kepler Station grow larger through the viewports. The station orbited Kepler 442c, one of humanity's most successful terraforming projects. What had once been a frozen wasteland was now a garden world with over 300,000 human colonists. "Captain," her first officer James Wu called from the communications station. "We're receiving a priority message from the Colonial Authority." "Put it through," Elena replied, settling into her captain's chair. The holographic image of Governor Patricia Santos appeared before them. Santos was a tough woman in her 60s, one of the original colonists who had helped transform Kepler 442c from ice ball to paradise. "Elena," Santos began without preamble, "I need every available ship for emergency evacuation runs to the Outer Rim colonies." Elena frowned. "Evacuation? Governor, what's happening? The Galactic Council voted to quarantine humanity 3 days ago. We have less than a year to evacuate all our colonies beyond Sol, or face military action." "That's impossible," James said from behind Elena. "There are over 2 million colonists spread across 17 worlds. We don't have enough ships." "Which is why," Santos interrupted, "we're not evacuating." Elena blinked. "Ma'am?" Santos leaned forward, her expression intense. "Every human colony has just declared independence from Earth. We're no longer Earth colonies, we're independent human nations. The quarantine applies to Earth, not to us." A slow smile spread across Elena's face. "Clever. It gets better," Santos continued. "Admiral Vasquez has authorized something called Operation Exodus. We're not just maintaining our existing colonies, we're expanding them. Rapidly." James whistled low. "That sounds like war?" Santos shook her head. "Not yet, but it might come to that. Which is why we need every ship, every captain, every crew member willing to help. Elena, I know you've been running cargo between the inner colonies, but we need you for something bigger." Elena straightened in her chair. "What do you need?" "I need you to take a team to an uncharted system about 40 light years from here. Long-range surveys suggest it has at least 3 potentially habitable worlds. Your job is to establish a base of operations and begin preliminary terraforming." "Governor," James said carefully, "with respect, the Horizon's Edge is a cargo freighter. We're not equipped for exploration or terraforming." Santos smiled grimly. "You won't be going alone, and you won't be staying a cargo freighter for long." 6 hours later, Elena stood in the massive industrial complex of Kepler Station's Shipyard 7. Around her, the sounds of construction filled the air. Welding torches, heavy machinery, and the constant hum of fabrication units working around the clock. "Impressive, isn't it?" Elena turned to see a tall, lean man approaching. He wore the uniform of the Colonial Engineering Corps, and his name tag read DR. "Alex Chen." "Dr. Chen," Elena said, extending her hand. "I'm Captain Vasquez." "Alex, please," he replied, shaking her hand. "And I know who you are. You're about to become the captain of humanity's first independent deep space colony ship." He gestured to the massive construction project before them. Elena's breath caught in her throat. The Horizon's Edge was there, but she almost didn't recognize it. The ship was being completely rebuilt. New hull sections were being attached, expanding it to 3 times its original size. Massive engines that dwarfed her original drive systems were being installed. "What are you doing to my ship?" she asked, awed despite herself. "We're turning her into something the galaxy has never seen before," Alex replied proudly. "A mobile colony platform, self-sufficient, heavily armed, and capable of establishing a permanent settlement on any world within 6 months of arrival." They walked along the observation deck and Alex pointed out the modifications. Extended cargo bays filled with terraforming equipment, atmospheric processors, prefabricated buildings, and enough supplies to support 5,000 colonists for 2 years. Enhanced sensor arrays for deep space exploration and, he paused dramatically, the most advanced manufacturing systems outside of Earth herself. Elena stopped walking. "Manufacturing systems? We can build almost anything we need, given raw materials. More ships, more equipment, more colonies. The idea is simple: establish a foothold, build up, expand, repeat." "How many ships like this are being built?" Alex's grin widened. 47. Each one headed to a different system, each one carrying the seeds of a new human civilization. They continued walking, and Elena began to understand the scope of what humanity was attempting. This wasn't just defiance of the Galactic Council's quarantine, this was a complete transformation of human space strategy. The Council thinks they're dealing with a typical expansionist species, Alex explained. They expect us to fight for territory, to compete for resources, to follow their rules. They have no idea what humans are really capable of when we stop playing by someone else's game. Elena nodded slowly. And if they try to stop us? Alex's expression grew serious. Then they'll discover that quarantining humanity was the worst strategic mistake in galactic history. Meanwhile, in the depths of space between systems, a very different conversation was taking place. Admiral Zektar of the Vorthan Empire stood in the command center of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. The massive dreadnought was one of the most powerful ships in the galaxy, bristling with weapons and carrying a crew of 10,000. "Report," Zektar commanded. Commander Vixtal, his intelligence chief, stepped forward. Her 4 eyes glowed with concern. "Admiral, our surveillance of human activities has revealed unexpected developments." "Explain." "The human colonies have declared independence from Earth. Our legal analysts believe this technically exempts them from the quarantine order." Zektar's main arms gestured dismissively. A clever but ultimately meaningless gesture. Independent or not, they are still human, still a threat. "There's more, sir. Intelligence suggests the humans are not preparing for evacuation. Instead, they appear to be expanding." The Admiral's expression darkened. "Expanding? Impossible. They wouldn't dare openly defy the Council." "Sir, long-range sensors have detected unusual activity at several human colonies. Massive construction projects, ship movements, resource gathering on an unprecedented scale." Zektar was quiet for a long moment, his 6 arms folded in thought. The Vorthan Empire had been the primary architect of humanity's quarantine, but they had expected the humans to accept their fate quietly. This sounded like something else entirely. "Double our surveillance operations," he ordered finally. "I want to know exactly what the humans are planning." "Yes, sir. But Admiral, what if they are preparing for war?" Zektar's laugh was cold and bitter. "Commander, the humans have 50 years of space travel experience. We have 50,000. They have 17 colonies. We have an empire spanning 400 worlds. If they want war." He turned to look out at the stars. "They shall have it." But even as he spoke, Zektar felt a nagging doubt. Humans had surprised the galaxy before. Their rapid expansion, their technological adaptability, their stubborn refusal to follow established patterns, all of it defied conventional wisdom. Still, there were limits to what any species could accomplish. Weren't there? As the Eternal Dominion changed course toward human space, neither Zektar nor his crew noticed the small, stealthy observation probe that had been tracking them for the past 3 days. The probe's human-built sensors recorded everything: ship movements, communication frequencies, weapons configurations. 50 light-years away, in a secure facility on Kepler 442c, Admiral Elena Vasquez studied the probe's data with grim satisfaction. "So," she murmured to her staff, "the Vorthans are mobilizing. Earlier than we expected, but not unexpected." Her aide, Colonel Martinez, leaned forward. "Ma'am, should we accelerate the Exodus timeline?" Admiral Vasquez shook her head. "No, we stick to the plan. But send word to all colony ships. Once they reach their destinations, they are to assume they're already at war." She stood and walked to the window overlooking the bustling colony below. Humans worked alongside terraforming machines, building a civilization from scratch. In a few months, all of this might be under attack. But humanity had learned something important over the past 50 years in space. The galaxy was vast, and there was always somewhere else to go. Always another world to claim, another system to explore, another chance to start over. The Galactic Council thought they were quarantining humanity. What they had actually done was give humans a reason to stop being polite neighbors and start being themselves. The Exodus was just beginning. 2 months later, Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of her transformed ship. watching as the New Horizon dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of an uncharted system. The vessel that had once been the simple cargo freighter, Horizon's edge now bristled with sensors, manufacturing equipment, and the hopes of 5,000 colonists. "System scan complete, Captain," reported Lieutenant Torres from the sensor station. 3 potentially habitable worlds as predicted. The second planet shows excellent terraforming potential. Atmosphere within acceptable parameters, abundant water, and... She paused, frowning at her displays. "And what, Lieutenant?" "And signs of massive mineral deposits. Captain, this system is incredibly rich in rare elements, the kind we need for advanced manufacturing." Elena smiled grimly. The scouts had chosen, well, all right, people. Begin standard colonization protocol. Send probes to all 3 worlds. Establish orbital platforms and start the terraforming assessment. Dr. Alex Chen, now serving as the ship's chief science officer, approached her station. "Elena, I'm reading something interesting from the outer system. Long-range sensors are picking up what looks like ancient structures on the 4th planet." Elena raised an eyebrow. "Alien ruins?" "Possibly, but if they are, they're old, really old. Millions of years, maybe more." "Any signs of current habitation?" "None whatsoever. The planet's atmosphere is mostly carbon dioxide with trace methane. Completely uninhabitable by any known species." Elena nodded. "Mark it for later investigation. Right now, our priority is establishing the colony." As the New Horizon moved deeper into the system, neither Elena nor her crew realized they were being watched. On the edge of the system, hidden behind a small asteroid, a Vorthan stealth ship recorded everything. Admiral Zektar reviewed the surveillance footage with growing anger. The human colony ship was enormous, far larger than any vessel in their previous intelligence reports. And the speed with which they were establishing their presence in the system was unprecedented. "How many humans are aboard that ship?" he demanded. "Our estimates suggest 5,000, sir," Commander Vixtal replied, "plus manufacturing capability that appears to exceed some of our smaller shipyards." 5,000! Zektar's 6 arms clenched in fury. "They're not just establishing colonies, they're building mobile civilizations." "Sir, what are your orders?" Zektar studied the tactical display. The human ship was powerful, but it was still just one ship. His task force consisted of 3 heavy cruisers and 2 destroyers, more than enough to deal with a single vessel. "We end this before it begins," he declared. "Signal the fleet. Attack formation." Aboard the New Horizon, alarms suddenly blared throughout the ship. "Contact," Lieutenant Torres shouted. 5 ships, Vorthon configuration, coming out of hyperspace at high velocity. They're powering weapons. Elena felt her heart skip, but her voice remained steady. "Battle stations, launch all fighters, signal the colony platforms to take evasive action." "Captain," Dr. Chen said urgently, "the colony ships are civilian vessels. They can't—" "I know," Elena cut him off. She activated the ship-wide communication system. "All hands, this is the captain. We are under attack by Vorthon forces. This is not a drill. All military personnel to combat stations. All civilian personnel to emergency shelters." The New Horizon shuddered as the first enemy salvo struck their shields. "Shields down to 80%, reported Chief Engineer Park. "But they're holding." Elena studied the tactical display. 5 enemy ships against 1. The odds were bad, but not impossible. The New Horizon had been built for exactly this scenario. "Return fire," she ordered. "Target the lead cruiser." The ship's new weapon systems, far more advanced than anything on Elena's old cargo freighter, lanced out across space. The lead Vorthan cruiser's shields flared as the energy beam struck home. "Direct hit," Torres reported. "Enemy shields down to 60%. But even as she spoke, the other 4 Vorthan ships opened fire. The New Horizon rocked under the combined assault. "Shields down to 40%, Park called out. Elena gritted her teeth. They could take a few more hits, but not many. She needed an advantage, something the Vorthons weren't expecting. "Alex," she called to Dr. Chen. "Those manufacturing systems of yours, how quickly can they produce small drones?" Chen's eyes widened with understanding. If we're just talking about simple kamikaze units with basic guidance systems, maybe 20 minutes? Do it. Everything we've got. As the battle raged, the New Horizons manufacturing bays came alive with activity. Automated systems began producing dozens of small, fast attack drones. Meanwhile, the ship's main weapons continued to trade fire with the Vorthon fleet. Admiral Zektar watched the battle from his flagship's bridge, growing increasingly frustrated. The human ship was absorbing punishment that should have destroyed it twice over, and its return fire was remarkably accurate. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "the human vessel appears to be manufacturing something. We're detecting significant industrial activity despite the ongoing battle." "Impossible," Zektar snapped. "No ship can conduct manufacturing operations while under fire." But even as he spoke, the first wave of human drones emerged from the New Horizons bays. 50 small, fast-moving craft swarmed toward the Vorthon fleet. "Point defense systems, engage the drones," Zektar ordered. The Vorthon ship's defensive weapons opened fire, destroying most of the drones before they could reach their targets. But several got through, slamming into the hulls of 2 destroyers. The explosions were small individually, but their cumulative effect was significant. "Minor damage to ships 4 and 5, the tactical officer reported. Zektar was about to dismiss the drone attack as a desperate gesture when his sensors officer called out an alarm. "Admiral, the human ship is launching another wave. Larger, this time, over 100 units. Zektar stared at the tactical display in disbelief. The human ship was producing attack drones faster than his fleet could destroy them, and each wave was larger than the last. "How is this possible?" he demanded. Commander Vixtal studied her intelligence reports frantically. "Sir, our previous assessments may have been incomplete. It appears human manufacturing technology is far more advanced than we believed." The second wave of drones struck the Vorthon fleet, overwhelming their point defenses. Several got through to impact the main ships, causing moderate damage. But it was the third wave that changed everything. By now, the New Horizon was launching. Over 200 drones at once. The Vorthon fleet's defensive systems couldn't handle the volume. Dozens of drones struck home, and one of the destroyer's shields collapsed entirely. "Sir, Ship 5 is reporting critical damage," the communications officer announced. "They're requesting permission to withdraw." Zektar watched in growing horror as a fourth wave of drones, nearly 300 this time, swarmed toward his fleet. The human ship was essentially turning raw materials into weapons in real time, faster than any known manufacturing system in the galaxy. "All ships, withdraw to hyperspace," he ordered reluctantly. "We'll regroup and—" "Sir," the sensors officer interrupted. "The human ship is launching fighters now. Real fighters, not just drones." Indeed, sleek human fighter craft were emerging from the New Horizons bays. They moved to intercept the retreating Vorthon fleet, harrying them as they prepared for hyperspace. "Impossible," Zektar muttered as his fleet finally escaped. They built functional fighter craft in the middle of a battle. Aboard the New Horizon, cheers erupted across the bridge as the Vorthon ships disappeared into hyperspace. "Enemy fleet has withdrawn," Torres reported triumphantly. Elena allowed herself a moment of satisfaction, but her expression quickly grew serious. "Damage report." "Shields are regenerating," Chief Park replied. "Hull damage is minimal. We can continue operations." "And our manufacturing capability?" Dr. Chen grinned broadly. "Not only intact, but we've learned something important. Our production rate exceeds all previous estimates. Elena, we just built 200 combat drones and 12 fighters during a space battle. I don't think any other species in the galaxy can do that." Elena nodded, but her mind was already moving to the next challenge. "They'll be back, probably with more ships." "Let them come," Chen said confidently. "By the time they return, we'll have established the colony, built orbital defenses, and probably constructed a few more ships of our own." Elena looked out at the system they were claiming, the first of many that would soon belong to independent human colonies. The Galactic Council had voted to quarantine humanity, thinking they could contain them like a disease. Instead, they had just learned that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their adaptability or their stubborn nature. It was their ability to turn any situation, no matter how desperate, into an opportunity to grow stronger. The exodus was accelerating, and there was no force in the galaxy that could stop it now. But as Elena gave orders to resume colonization, operations, neither she nor her crew noticed the small probe that had detached from one of the Vorthan ships before they withdrew. The probe drifted silently through space, recording everything: ship specifications, manufacturing capabilities, tactical doctrines. Admiral Zektar had lost the first battle, but he was already planning for the war that would follow. Chapter: The Galaxy Responds 3. Months after the Battle of New Terra, as the colonists had named their new world, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. The Great Chamber buzzed with tension as representatives from across the galaxy gathered to address what many were calling the human crisis. Ambassador Sarah Chen sat in the Earth delegation section, but now she was alone. Captain Rodriguez had been reassigned to coordinate with the independent colonies, leaving Sarah as Earth's sole representative. The isolation felt symbolic. Earth itself was now truly isolated, cut off from its children among the stars. The speaker, their crystalline form pulsing with agitated light, called for order. The Council recognizes Ambassador Zektar of the Wando Vorthan Empire. Zektar rose, his 6 arms gesturing dramatically. Gone was the confident demeanor he had displayed during the quarantine vote. Now he looked shaken, even desperate. "Esteemed colleagues," he began, "I come before you with disturbing news. The human threat has evolved far beyond our initial assessments." He activated a holographic display showing the battle footage from New Terra. The assembled representatives watched in stunned silence as the human colony ship manufactured weapons and fighters in real time during combat. "This," Zektar declared, "represents a fundamental shift in warfare. No known species possesses manufacturing capability of this magnitude. The humans can literally transform raw materials into military assets faster than we can destroy them." Murmurs of concern rippled through the chamber. High Counselor Threx of the Ancient Assembly clicked her mandibles nervously. "Ambassador Zektar, surely you exaggerate. No single ship could—" "Honored Counselor," Zektar interrupted, "I have additional intelligence that will concern you further." The display changed, showing sensor readings from across human space. In the past 3 months, 47 human colony ships have departed for uncharted systems. Each ship carries similar manufacturing capability. Each ship can establish not just a colony, but an entire industrial base within months of arrival. The chamber erupted in shocked conversation. The implications were staggering. Ambassador Chen felt a mixture of pride and terror as she watched the galaxy's reaction. Humanity had indeed exceeded all expectations, but they were also painting themselves as a threat to the entire galactic order. Furthermore, Zektar continued, "Our intelligence suggests these colonies are not simply independent settlements. They are coordinating their efforts, sharing technology, building toward some larger purpose." "What are you proposing?" asked Counselor Brix of the Aquatic Syndicate. Zektar's expression grew grim. "Military action, immediate and decisive. We must destroy these human colonies before they can establish themselves further." The chamber exploded into argument. Some species, particularly the more militaristic ones, supported Zektar's proposal. Others argued for diplomacy or further sanctions. A few suggested that perhaps the quarantine had been a mistake in the first place. Ambassador Chen requested permission to speak. The speaker, after some hesitation, granted it. "Honored council members," Sarah began, her voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. "You speak of my people as if we are some kind of plague to be eradicated. But ask yourselves this: what crime have we actually committed?" She activated her own display, showing peaceful images of human colonies. "We have not invaded occupied worlds. We have not attacked other species. We have not started any wars. Our only crime is succeeding too well at survival. Your expansion threatens the stability of the galaxy. Threx declared. Our expansion threatens no one, Sarah countered. We settle empty worlds. We build where others cannot or will not. We create life where there was none before. You multiply too rapidly, Zektar accused. Your hunger for resources is insatiable. Sarah turned to face him directly. We multiply because we're successful. We seek resources because we need them to survive. These are not crimes. They are the basic drives of any healthy species. But your manufacturing capabilities, another representative called out. They upset the balance of power. Our manufacturing capabilities, Sarah replied, are the result of necessity. When you voted to quarantine us, to cut us off from galactic trade and support, you forced us to become self-sufficient. What you're seeing now is the result of that forced independence. The chamber fell silent as the representatives absorbed this. Sarah pressed her advantage. You created this situation. You declared us a threat and then acted surprised when we responded as if we were under threat. You want to quarantine humanity? Fine. But don't expect us to quietly disappear because it's convenient for you. Zektar's 6 arms gestured angrily. You admit that humanity has no intention of accepting the Council's authority? Sarah straightened, her voice growing stronger. Humanity accepts the authority of those who earn it through wisdom and justice. This Council has shown neither in its treatment of my people. The implications of her words sent a shock through the chamber. She wasn't just defying the quarantine. She was rejecting the Council's legitimacy entirely. High Counselor Threx leaned forward. Ambassador Chen, are you speaking for Earth or for all of humanity? Sarah paused, considering her words carefully. I am speaking for the principles that all humans share. The right to survive, to grow, to build better lives for our children. If that puts us at odds with this Council, she spread her hands, then so be it. The vote, when it came, was closer than the quarantine vote had been, but the result was the same. The Council authorized military action against the independent human colonies. The vote was 198 in favor, 87 opposed, with 15 abstentions. As the session dissolved into discussions of military strategy and resource allocation, Sarah quietly gathered her belongings. Her time as Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council was effectively over. But as she left the chamber, she was approached by an unexpected figure, Ambassador Kale Nesh of the Altarian Republic, one of the few species that had consistently supported humanity. Ambassador Chen, the graceful, blue-skinned alien said quietly. There is something you should know. The vote may have authorized military action, but not all council members support it. Some of us remember what happened the last time the galaxy tried to suppress a rapidly expanding species. Sarah paused. What do you mean? Kalenesh glanced around nervously. The Vorthans themselves were once where humanity is now, young, aggressive, expanding rapidly. The council of that era tried to contain them too. The war that followed lasted 3 centuries and reshaped the galaxy, and now the Vorthans lead the effort against us, Sarah said, understanding. They fear history repeating itself, but what they don't realize is that by trying to prevent it, they may have guaranteed it. Kyle Nesh handed her a small data crystal. These are the coordinates of several Altarian colonies in neutral space. If humanity needs friends in the coming conflict, Sarah pocketed the crystal gratefully. Thank you. As she made her way to her ship, Sarah activated her emergency communicator. The encrypted signal would reach Admiral Vasquez on Kepler 442c within hours. The Council has authorized military action against the colonies, she transmitted. The Vorthans are mobilizing a major fleet. Estimated time to first attacks, 2 weeks. She paused, then added, but we may have allies. And Admiral, they're afraid of us, really afraid. Maybe it's time we started acting like we deserve to be feared. Meanwhile, in the new Terra system, Captain Elena Vasquez watched as the first orbital shipyard neared completion. In just 3 months, the colony had transformed from a single ship to a thriving industrial complex. 3 more colony ships had arrived, bringing the system's population to over 20,000. Dr. Alex Chen approached her as she stood on the observation deck of New Terra Station. the massive orbital platform that now served as the system's command center. "Elena," he said, his voice tight with concern, "we just received Admiral Vasquez's warning. The Council has authorized military action." Elena, she had taken her predecessor's name when she was promoted to Admiral of the new Terra Defense Force, nodded grimly. "How long do we have?" 2 weeks, maybe less. And Elena, our scouts report Vorthon fleet movements near the Rigel sector. That's only 6 jumps from here. Elena studied the tactical display that dominated the observation deck. New Terra now boasted 6 orbital shipyards, 12 defensive platforms, and a fleet of 37 ships of various sizes. It was an impressive achievement for 3 months of work, but would it be enough? "What's the status on the Prometheus project?" she asked. Alex's expression grew complicated. "The prototypes are ready for testing, but Elena, we're talking about weapons technology that no species has ever deployed before. If we use them, we survive." Elena cut him off. "If we don't, everything we've built here dies with us." She turned to face him fully. "Alex, I need you to understand something. The galaxy has made its choice. They see us as a threat that needs to be eliminated. We can either prove them right by fighting back, or prove them right by dying quietly." Alex nodded reluctantly. "I'll authorize the final tests." As he left, Elena remained at the observation deck, watching the bustling activity of her new world. Below on the planet's surface, automated terraforming equipment was transforming the landscape. Above in space, construction drones swarmed around, new ships taking shape in the shipyards. Humanity had indeed evolved beyond what anyone had expected. But evolution, Elena knew, was often a violent process. Admiral Zektar stood in the war room of the Vorthon flagship, Eternal Dominion, studying. The holographic display that showed the positions of his assembled fleet. 200 ships, the largest military force the Vorthon Empire had deployed in over a century. "Sir," Commander Vikstall reported, "the other Council fleets are moving into position. The Crystalline Hegemony is contributing 50 ships, the Aquatic Syndicate another 30. Total combined force nearly 400 vessels." Zektar nodded with satisfaction. It was overwhelming force, more than enough to crush the human colonies before they could establish themselves further. "What's our intelligence on human defenses?" "Limited, sir. Long-range reconnaissance suggests they have perhaps 40 ships total across all their colonies. Their defensive capabilities appear minimal." 40 ships against 400, Zektar mused. It hardly seems sporting. But even as he spoke, something nagged at him. The humans had surprised them before. Their manufacturing capabilities, their tactical flexibility, their sheer stubborn refusal to follow expected patterns. All of it made him uneasy. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the human colony in the new Terra system." Zektar frowned. "Put it through." The holographic image of a human female appeared, tall, confident, wearing the uniform of what appeared to be a military commander. "I am Admiral Elena Vasquez of the new Terra Defense Force," she began. "I assume you are Admiral Zektar of the Vorthon Empire." "I am," Zektar replied coldly. "And you are about to surrender your illegal colony to the lawful authority of the Galactic Council." Elena's smile was sharp as a blade. "Actually, Admiral, I'm here to offer you a chance to withdraw your fleet before you make a mistake that will haunt the galaxy for centuries." Zektar's 6 arms gestured dismissively. "You have 40 ships, we have 400. What possible mistake could we make?" "The mistake," Elena replied, "of assuming that ship count is the only factor that matters in modern warfare." She paused, her expression growing serious. "Admiral, I'm going to tell you something that your intelligence services apparently haven't figured out yet. We're not the same species that left Earth 50 years ago. We've evolved, adapted, become something new. Empty threats will not threats," Elena interrupted. "Facts. You see, when you quarantined us, you forced us to become completely self-sufficient. That means we don't just build our own ships and weapons, we build our own shipyards, our own factories, our own entire industrial bases." Zektar was growing impatient. "Your point?" My point is that every human colony is essentially a pocket civilization, capable of exponential growth independent of any external support. You're not fighting 40 ships, Admiral. You're fighting 40 civilizations, each one capable of producing 40 more ships in the time it takes you to deploy your fleet. The transmission ended, leaving Zektar staring at empty space. After a moment, he turned to his intelligence chief. Commander Vixtal, what are our latest estimates on human manufacturing capability? Vixtal consulted her datapad. Sir, based on the new Terra engagement, we estimate they can produce approximately 20 combat units per day during wartime operations. 20 units per day, Zektar repeated slowly. For how many colonies? 47 confirmed independent colonies. Sir, Zektar did the math in his head. If each colony could produce 20 ships per day, that meant nearly 1,000 new ships every day. Even allowing for exaggeration and optimistic estimates, the implications were staggering. Sir, the tactical officer called out. Long range. Sensors are detecting unusual activity throughout human space. Massive energy signatures consistent with industrial operations. They're not just preparing to defend, Zektar realized with growing horror. They're preparing to expand their manufacturing base exponentially. He turned to the communications station. Send a message to Council Command. We may need additional reinforcements. But even as he gave the order, Zektar wondered if it would be enough. 400 ships seemed like overwhelming force against 40. But what if those 40 became 400? Or 4,000? For the first time since the conflict began, Admiral Zektar wondered if the Galactic Council had made a terrible mistake. Epilogue. The New Galaxy. 1 year later, Ambassador Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of humanity's newest achievement, New Geneva Station, a massive diplomatic complex built in neutral space between human and galactic territories. The station was a marvel of human engineering, a city-sized structure capable of housing representatives from dozens of species, complete with multiple atmospheric zones, gravity settings, and environmental controls. But its most impressive feature was what it represented: humanity's return to galactic diplomacy, but on their own terms. The Altarian delegation has arrived, Captain Rodriguez, now General Rodriguez, head of humanity's diplomatic security forces, informed her. Sarah nodded, straightening her formal diplomatic robes. Today marked the signing of the Geneva Accords, the treaty that would reshape the galaxy's power structure forever. As she walked toward the main conference chamber, Sarah reflected on the events of the past year. The war that everyone had expected never quite materialized. Oh, there had been battles, dozens of them. But each engagement had only reinforced the lesson of New Terra. Human manufacturing capability made traditional warfare obsolete. The Vorthan Empire had learned this the hard way at the Battle of Kepler 442c, when their fleet of 200 ships had been overwhelmed by nearly 500 human vessels, all of them built during the 3 weeks it took the Vorthans to reach the system. The crystalline hegemony had discovered it at Nova Centauri, where human colonies had turned an asteroid belt into a massive weapons factory, producing attack drones by the tens of thousands. The Aquatic Syndicate had learned it at the Battle of the Spiral Nebula, where human ships had literally built themselves a fleet carrier during combat, launching fighters that had been constructed minutes earlier. After 6 months of increasingly lopsided defeats, the Galactic Council had quietly approached humanity about peace negotiations. Sarah entered the conference chamber to find representatives from over 100 species already assembled. At the head of the table sat the new speaker of the Galactic Council, no longer the crystalline being who had presided over humanity's quarantine, but a more moderate voice from the Altarian Republic. Distinguished representatives, the speaker began, we gather today to formalize humanity's place in the galactic community. The terms of the Geneva Accords were revolutionary. Humanity would be recognized as a sovereign power equal to any other galactic civilization. Human colonies would have the right to self-determination. Most importantly, the galaxy would officially recognize humanity's right to expand and settle empty systems without interference. In exchange, humanity agreed to certain limitations, No terraforming of worlds with existing ecosystems, no settlements in systems claimed by other species, and adherence to new galactic trade regulations. But perhaps the most significant change was the establishment of the Human Manufacturing Consortium, a new galactic institution that would share human industrial technology with other species, in exchange for raw materials and scientific cooperation. "The galaxy has changed," Sarah said when called upon to speak. "Humanity has changed it, but we have been changed by it as well. We are no longer the young species that left Earth 50 years ago, looking for our place among the stars." She gestured to the assembled representatives. "We are builders now, creators. We take empty space and fill it with life, with civilization, with hope. And we invite all of you to join us in that great work." Admiral Zektar, now reduced to representing the much-diminished Vorthan Empire, rose to speak. "The Vorthans acknowledge humanity's unique capabilities. We pledge to abide by the terms of these accords." His tone was respectful, but Sarah could see the fear in his eyes. The Vorthan Empire had once been the galaxy's dominant military power. Now they were just another member species, their fleets obsolete in the face of human manufacturing supremacy. After the formal ceremonies, Sarah found herself alone on the observation deck, looking out at the stars. General Rodriguez joined her, carrying 2 cups of coffee, a luxury that human traders had introduced to dozens of grateful species. "So," he said, offering her a cup, "we won." Sarah accepted the coffee gratefully. "Did we? Sometimes I'm not so sure." "What do you mean?" She gestured at the stars. "Look out there, Marcus. A year ago there were 47 human colonies. Today there are over 300, with more launching every week. In 10 years, there might be thousands. That's good, isn't it? We're ensuring humanity's survival." "We're ensuring more than that," Sarah replied quietly. "We're ensuring human dominance. The galaxy tried to quarantine us because they were afraid we would take over. Instead, they forced us to become capable of exactly that." Rodriguez was quiet for a moment. "Do you think we made the wrong choice?" Sarah sipped her coffee, considering the question. "I think we made the only choice we could, but I also think the galaxy will never be the same. We've upset the balance of power so fundamentally that there's no going back." "And that frightens you?" "It should frighten everyone," Sarah said, "including us." As they stood there watching the stars, neither of them noticed the small human ship that was just departing the station. Aboard that ship, Captain Elena Vasquez, the original cargo freighter captain who had become humanity's first colonial admiral, was reviewing reports from the newest wave of colony expeditions. 50 new systems had been identified for settlement. Manufacturing ships were already en route. Within 5 years, humanity would have more colonies than the rest of the galaxy combined. The Galactic Council had voted to exile Earth. Humans hadn't waited for permission. They had built their own galaxy instead. And somewhere in the depths of space, automated human factories continued their work, building ships, stations, and colonies at a rate that defied comprehension. The exponential growth that had once been humanity's survival mechanism had become their greatest weapon. The galaxy would never be the same. And perhaps, Elena thought as she approved the next wave of expansion, that was exactly as it should be. The exile was over. The expansion had only just begun. The end.